high school teachers, asking them what opportunities were available. And I don't know, because of some of the activism that I was involved in, I actually was offered a position at CARE, and that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years now. I direct their Civil Rights Department. And I constantly get phone calls from people that are having problems. So, you know, part of the whole graduation thing is realizing what you want to do and how you want to do it. And if there isn't a path defined for you, it's really important to figure that path out. And fortunately, if you're going to med school, you have a pretty set path, right? You know this is how you're going to go about getting into medical school. You know that you got to take the MCAT, you got to apply for med school early on, etc. Yada yada. I mean, it's a defined path. Same with law school. I mean, law school is the same way. But I mean, whatever you decide to do, like with grad school, you really need to know whether or not that's something you want to do with your life. So, if you don't decide to do that, and you decide to do more of the professional life, going and working, there's a couple of things that you need to realize that you're going to find yourself involved with. You're going to be involved with office politics. It's not the same as, like, you know, politics that you might experience here on campus, where you have, you know, Zionists on one side, Muslims on the other. It's definitely not like that. You know, getting ahead, how exactly are you going to show your work in order to get that promotion, get that raise? And in this tough economy, there's not a lot of jobs. So how exactly are you going to land that job? You know, the other problem a lot of my friends face, especially those that became engineers, was they ended up working and doing things in the engineering field that they hate. They absolutely hate going to work. They're constantly spending their time on GChat with me, telling me about how much they hate their work. Like, it's a pretty sad situation. I feel for them. You know, and then they do get paid, but then, I mean, they're constantly spending their time on GChat with me, telling me about how much they hate their work. Like, it's a pretty sad situation. I feel for them. You know, and then they do get paid, but then, I mean, in this economy, a lot of them also are getting laid off. Yeah. And then that's when, you know, contemplating whether or not it's worthwhile to go back to school. I mean, that whole issue comes back up again. So, you know, all these things are complicated. You're dealing with also family problems. You're dealing with your parents pressuring you to get married. You're dealing with your parents telling you your job's not good enough. You're dealing with your parents telling you to move back home. You know, you're dealing with finding that right job, the right salary, figuring out what a 401k plan is and how exactly do you benefit from it. And the issues keep going on, and then if you have responsibilities, like you have to take care of your parents or your siblings, like that's a huge issue too you have to consider. So all of these things really stack up, and I think at the end of the day, what's really important are 4 things. And all 4 things, these skills, aren't things that you're going to learn. You're going to have to, well, you're not going to learn them here, but you're definitely going to be able to practice them. But these things center around time management, figuring out how exactly to manage your time. Professionalism. I have so many interns that come through CARE and other places that I go, other organizations I work with, and the interns are just not professional. And then these are the same individuals that try to go get jobs elsewhere, and they just don't stack up because, you know, professionalism is a really key component in working. The way you dress, the way you talk, the way you present yourself, the way you write, the way you answer the phone. I mean, these are simple things, but a lot of people don't know. The next 2 aspects are social interaction. This is what people would refer to as networking. It seems like a really mundane term, but networking, especially if you're in the liberal arts, that's like a key. Like the people you know is literally how you're going to get a job or get ahead in the field. And I think for the most part, that also is something that transfers into engineering and into biotech and stuff like that. That's really key. That's really important. You know, landing a fellowship. It might be the people that you know that are going to get you that fellowship, not exactly your resume. And then financial management. Like if you're a liberal arts major, you're pretty much poor for a very long time. So, I mean, if you're pursuing your passion, it's not easy. Let's just say that. You know, in all of these 4 components, you can find Islamic characteristics in them. Things like time management, I mean, that was critical. When it comes to time management, I mean, Muslims know that best. Well, we should when it comes to 5 daily prayers. I mean, professionalism, the idea that the Prophet ﷺ kept himself in a way that presented to everybody at all times a professional standard. I mean, all these things are really important. You can find them within our Islamic heritage. So, you have all of this, and like, you're dealing with a depression literally right now, so how do you get a job? What do you do? What could you do? And how do you figure out what exactly you want to do with your life? I mean, these are all important things, and I think a lot of this is like introspective. A lot of it is you as individuals having to step away from your friends, your family, and reflecting and kind of asking yourself some tough questions. Like, for example, when I was working at that law firm, I would spend my lunch sitting outside and just staring out into the street, thinking, okay, what am I doing here? You know, it's not that I don't like law or anything. I mean, that's all I do now. I work a lot with legal situations. It's just that the type of law I practiced was kicking old ladies out of their houses and suing people for accidents. Not exactly that meaningful for me. So, you know, it took a while for me to figure out what exactly it is that I didn't like. But, you know, this is a good time to actually do that. And the best way to do that is by internships. Like, if you're not out there doing internships, I think you're missing out on one of the key components of what college is. Because it gives you practical experience, and it also allows you to apply a lot of what you're learning. You know, a good example, unfortunately, in this situation is my brother. Right? My brother is graduating from UCLA, and mashallah, he's done good, and he's like ahead of the curve and everything, but he has absolutely no internship experience. And so he's applying to all these grad programs, and he's been rejected now from a couple. And, you know, I told him to contact some of the people on the admissions committee and talk to them about what's going on. And when he called one of them up, he was like, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about my application. One of the things that he got back was, well, you know what, you have the classes, you have the research, but honestly, you don't have any practical experience to bring when it comes to diversity. Like, you have nothing to add to our class. So, if I could emphasize anything, I would think internships are critical. I think question and answer are towards the end. And getting out there, trying to get those internships are important. And again, the way that you do that is people you know. You know, for example, if you're interested in human rights or if you're interested in civil rights and stuff like that, I would be a good person to talk to. But, you know, if you're interested in other things, like, say you want to do some awesome research on Parkinson's disease, you know, your professor would probably be the best person to network with. And networking, when I'm talking about networking, it's not like talking to the professor and being like, hey, yo, I'm interested. It's actually developing a relationship that's beneficial. And like all these 4 components are things that we could sit down with and do like breakout sessions and talk about. And you know, you can find some great self-help books if you're really like motivated in actually reading about these topics. But if you focus on these and you're able to figure these 4 things out, I think these would be the most beneficial to you no matter what you decide to do, whether it's go into the professional field, you know, work on going towards grad school or medical school, or even go abroad to do like different programs. And also grad school, you don't necessarily have to do it here in the United States. There's 1-year grad programs in London, in France, in Germany, in Canada that are just as great, if not better, than programs here in the United States. And they're possibly even cheaper. So these are all things that you got to consider. Don't limit yourself and talk to people, not your close friends, because if your close friends are as confused as you are, they're probably not the best people to talk to. I guess with that, inshallah, like, you know, I'm here and I scheduled enough time to be here afterwards to talk more one-on-one. And, you know, I'm here and I'm definitely available when it comes to like talking about your resumes or opportunities that you might be interested in. You know, that's something that I, as an individual, would love to help people with because, you know, like, if I'm able to help even one of you and get out there and make yourself big, then you have